So welcome to our first Redbubble talk. This is the first talk that we're having in the series, and today's topic is collaboration. So thank you to David, Jack, Kifka, and Loretta for coming out. Our next talk will be in January, and it'll be on branding, so make sure to check out our website about that. Perfect. So a little bit about Redbubble. We're a marketplace for artists where artists can have their images showcased and then also put on products as well. So if you're an artist, make sure to sign up, and if you want to support artists, feel free to take a look and see if there's anything on there that you would like to own and have. We're based here in Melbourne as well, and so we have an event that's happening next. Oops. Never mind. We'll talk about that next. I just want to do a thank you to our media partners, Nicole Reed and Visible Studio. So thanks for being with us. And also thank you to Good Beer Week, who hooked us up with Mountain Goat Pants beer. So you guys are all having some beer and enjoying yourselves. Also, I just want to do an introduction to Toby, who put together this talk. So thanks to Toby, and she will be introing the speakers.
We're skipping slides. Okay, so it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our first speaker, David Russell. He is not only a photographer, but also a street art tour guide. He's not only knowledgeable, but he's also incredibly passionate about all forms of art on the street. He collaborates daily with artists to photograph their work, to showcase not only his ability, but also their finished imagery. So without further ado, please welcome David Russell.
Okay, so as you know, my name is David Russell Photography, for those of you that know me, and those of you that don't know me. Okay, so I suppose with everyone, I have a story as well to tell as well, you know what I mean? It's sort of, I wouldn't really be here without the story as well. And that story is, a few years ago, I suppose, as with everybody, you do a job. And I suppose the one thing I always thought about while doing that job was, I want to do a job that's creative. I want to do a job that I'm surrounded by artistic people as well, you know what I mean? That have artistic endeavours as well, that have dreams and aspirations that I want to sort of follow as well, you know what I mean? Nothing worse than getting out of bed and go and do a job that you don't want to do, or to put on a suit that you don't want to wear and have to iron it and go talk to some guy who doesn't even give a damn about you. You know, it's really important to find a job that you want to do, you know what I mean? It really helps to get out of bed in the day, and it just makes everything a lot better as well. Anyway, the story is a few years ago, I went away, just to get away from a few things that, you know, you encounter in life as well, you know. And I went away about 7 years ago, and in that process I lost a couple of brothers that I wasn't very close with, because we all grew up in foster care as well, you know what I mean? So in that process I ended up having to come back to Melbourne, because I was aware that my mother, who I never really grew up with, wasn't being looked after, wasn't being attended to. So I knew that I had to do something, and that was go home and look after her. And in that process, she actually lived in Collingwood, so when we got back and I moved in with her, and I slept on her floor for 6 months on a mattress no thicker than a bit of salada biscuit as well, you know what I mean? And she's got bipolar, she's schizophrenic and all that as well, so I was dealing with all that as well. But what it showed me, and what it made me realise, is she lived in Collingwood and Fitzroy, okay? And I don't know if you know this, but this place is inundated with street art and graffiti and urban expression. And one day I went and bought a phone that took pictures as well. It was worth about $200, $300, you know what I mean? And I bought it with the intention of taking photos, not realising what I was going to be doing as well. But once I started exploring the streets of Fitzroy and Collingwood, I really felt a sense of belonging there as well, because I love Collingwood because of all of its diversities as well. You know, you've got affluent people there, you've got drug addicts there, you've got families from Sudan there who've been through hell on earth, and I really love it. You've got everything there as well. But you've got the art, and the art's what really changed my life, you know what I mean? I started taking photos, and I sort of got home and I started looking at the photos, I started processing the photos in my mind, and then I started posting it on all my little blogs, as everyone does, you know what I mean? They initially post them up there to get a few likes and all that. And then one thing I noticed how people were reacting to my work, how people were emoting to my work, you know what I mean? And I'm a little OCD. I'm somebody that if I do something, I want to be the best at it. Not to say that I'm better than you or you. I don't want to put you down. I just want to be the best at it. Why bother doing something that you're passionate about if you're not going to be the best at it? You know what I mean? I want to be the cog in the wheel. I want to be part of the machine. I want to be somebody that changes the silent revolution. I want to change it from the inside out. You know what I mean? I started taking these photos, and then, like I said, I saw how it affected people, and I really enjoyed that. And I sort of realized, well, hey, I can actually be someone that is a part of the machine, and I wanted to be a part of this scene as well. I started to meet some of these people as well. I started going to a few of the shows as well. I started talking to everybody as well. And then I started meeting people as well. I met this young gentleman down the front here called Fletch, Factor is his street name, Fletcher Anderson. He also runs Invert. Good man, my man. He approached me one day in an alleyway because he was aware that, I was always taking lots of photos. And he asked me if I'd like to join Invert. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I like that. That sounds cool. Nice. But one thing, he had no idea what he was doing as well. He had no idea what he was signing up for as well. He had no idea that I was going to take this and ride the absolutely proverbial hell out of it. You know what I mean? And I did, because he didn't know that I want to be the best at it. So, I was able to go to shows. I was photographing all these events. And it was due to collaboration, which is what today's all about. It's about collaborating. Okay, and I think it's really important too, if you want to get anywhere today, I think it is all about collaboration, and if you want to learn something new or you want to do something different, I'm all about non-conventional methods. That's my new catchphrase, okay? It's like urban redevelopment. You drop that to a council member and they love that. Oh, urban redevelopment, that's awesome, wow, So anyway, what was I talking about? Getting back on track as well, Here we go. Yeah, non-conventional methods. Okay, what is a non-conventional method? Anyone? No, nobody at all. Okay, well, rather than going to school, getting a degree, getting a diploma, getting a whatever they are, MBs or all those things, I'm all about, if you want to learn something, go and do it. I'm really visually stimulated. I'm sure I've got dyslexia or some other disorder or something like that anyway. I'm really stimulated by, if I see it, I do it. I like to immerse myself in something. I like to be able to go see it. And it's something that's tangible. I like to be able to touch it and smell it, and, all those kind of things. If you tell me something and it's going to get lost in the ether up there and it'll never get done as well. I really like to, and then I wanted to be the photographer as well. Like I said, I started on a cheap $200 phone, and then I really wanted to, I wanted to be like the Nicole Reeds. Here I am now, I'm being photographed by Nicole Reed when, before it was me doing the photographing. So it's really quite bizarre as well, you know what I mean? And I use people like Nicole Reed and the Michael Danish Whiskies and all that, and I looked at what they were doing, okay? And I thought, well, I want to do what they do, but in my own unique, special way as well. And that's what's really important as well. I think you've got to have something that sets yourself apart from anybody else, okay? You look at what everybody else is doing, okay, the industry leaders, and then you take all the good things that they do, and then you apply it to what you do as well, okay? Whether it's their code of ethics, whether it's the way they address people, whether the way they present themselves as well. You just want to be the best at what you do. You want to do something that no one else does, and I think in a way I've managed to achieve that, because originally I was all about just taking photos of an object in front of me, as most people do. Because I scoured the world. I looked at all the blogs and all the photographers like, Colin Days and the Birdman over there in San Francisco and all those guys. I looked at what Bill Cunningham was doing. He was a New York photographer, and he would photograph all the celebrities over there in the 80s and all that. And I liked the way he was really prolific. I liked the way he just got on a bike, went out there and did what he did, and almost put himself in the front line by, getting really up close to people with a 35mm camera and really putting himself in front of, really getting out there as well. Because with a 35mm, you've really got to get up there, you know what I mean? You can't bring the subject into you with a long zoom lens as well, you know what I mean? I also like people like influencers like, Fletch is definitely an influence of mine. I'm one of my greatest influences as well. I really like what I've done as well. No, seriously. Because those that know me know that I've come from down there. And now I'm up here. And mate, it is the best place to be. And it is all because of people like my friends. It's amazing to have friends that drive you and push you and to say that, you can do better than that, Dave. Is that all you're going to do? And is that all you're going to photograph? Or why don't you try something different? Why don't you try something, be different? Why don't you look at it from a different angle? And so that's what I started doing. Apart from the fact I also started, while I was looking after Mum, by the way, getting back to that story. I looked after Mum. I lived with her for about 6 months. And then I started realizing what it is I want out of life. And that was I wanted to be artistic. I wanted to return back to my roots. I wanted to do something artistic. You know what I mean? I don't want the Australian dream, because that's the Australian nightmare. You know what I mean? Who wants to own a house and just get stuck and ground down into something and work? No way. I could be dead tomorrow. And in the grand scheme of things, life is so small, if you understand quantum dynamics and all those kind of things. But that's another story. Yeah, like I said, because get out there and do what you want to do. Don't do something you don't want to do, because I'm telling you what, it's boring as bat. Everyone does that. Everyone does the same old thing. You know, I want to do something different. I always want to be different as well, you know what I mean? So like I said, it was also, once I'd purchased the camera, a little phone camera, then I started looking at other things. I started, I remember working at Canon years ago. I used to work as a technician. And I remember looking at these grand cameras. These cameras worth, you know, $5,000, $10,000. I'm like, yeah, right. Well, fair enough. You'll never own one of those, Dave. What do you want one of those for? Lo and behold, guess what I own now? That's right. Why? Because I looked at the industry leaders. I saw what was required to be able to achieve these results as well. As much as it is my eye, that's the main thing I have. The tools are just something to present what it is that I see as well, you know what I mean? And I'm also one of those people that if you want to get into this artistic creative industry, I think it's really important. Like I said, you don't really need schools, diplomas and all that jazz. My jazz hands. You don't really need all that as well. You need determination. You need dreams. You need goals, and you need to be that weirdo on the tram who talks to people. Why? Because you need to get out there and talk to people. You know what I mean? You need to pull yourself away from your phone and go and communicate with people. You know what I mean? Really important, especially in this industry. You really need to get out there. And I remember, I think it was, I'm one of those people that if I do something, I want to know everything about it, every little nook and cranny. I want to know the stitches that bring the fabric together, okay? And I like to know everything to the point of where I remember one person in the scene, Mr. AKA Saul Boy Wolf Attack back there, he even thought, I heard anyway in the streams of things, that I was a bit of a police officer or something, because the way I was asking these questions, I think someone said, is he a police officer or what, that guy? He asked a lot of bloody questions, that guy. And that's the thing, you need to ask questions. You need to have your hand up constantly till it cramps, you know, till like those standing bubbas in India who stand there with their arms in the air for the rest of their life like that. You need to have it up constantly. You need to be asking questions, you know. You need to put yourself out there, and you need to feel uncomfortable, you know what I mean? You need to go to all the shows. You need to immerse yourself in it as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is a bit of freestyling here, but I'm going to sort of get back on track a bit here. I love talking, by the way. I do street art tours, as you know. So, actually, here we go. It's not a photo of me. It's actually Johnny Lydon from the Sex Pistols, a.k.a. Public Image Limited as well. He did a mad track back in the rave days as well. But this was actually one of my first photos I took with my Motorola Defy, little $200 phone. And it was taken at about 12 on April 2012. So we're talking about 30 months ago. So I've managed to do something in 30 months that you wouldn't be able to do if you did all this schooling and you went to all these courses and you went to everything else. Rather than that, I just did stuff that I'm going to bypass that. I'm just going to go straight for the throat, and I'm just going to do it my way. You know what I mean? And I'm sure I wouldn't be where I am if I had to spend all that time at RMIT and all those things as well. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's also a stencil, by the way, for all those who don't know what that is. Anarchy in the U. I like that. Where's the K gone? Okay. I used to look a bit like that back in the 90s as well, back in the rave days, if that gives you any idea as well. Okay, so this, getting to the next photo. This is a cockroach done by a good mate of mine, or he's a good mate of mine now, called Sheeta. Now, something about this guy's work, apart from the real crappy framing, as you can see there, I've done real bad framing there. Now I would never allow for this. I would never allow. Look at that, all going off there. What an absolute. Who took this photo? My God, David Russell Photography. Okay, so well, what I liked about this was I liked its frenetic nature. I also liked the symmetry. I liked the way it moved. I liked the way this guy, it's an illegal piece, yet look at the beauty in it, you know, look at the way these pieces change the urban landscape, you know what I mean? And these works like this have literally changed the urban landscapes over in the suburbs forever. And what it's done to I suppose, I see street art as like a social medicator. The way it makes you feel, you don't know why it makes you feel good, it just does, okay? Unlike those rubbishy ad campaigns out there, telling you what to do, what to why, what to buy, how to wear it. Like, come on, guys, seriously, mate. Give me a bit of art any day, you know what I mean? So the next image is, this is Sheeta, not Eminem. Okay, the reason why we can't show you his face is because he's an artist, okay? And they don't like showing their faces because some of these guys, you know, they paint illegally, so they have what's called anonymity. Okay, so I really got to know this guy really well. And it's the one thing I like to do when like I said, I like to get to know everything about it. You know, I don't want to just photograph this piece on a wall, but I want to know who's painting the piece and why they're painting it. You know what I mean? And it was through this process that I began to start collaborating with these people as well. Like I said, I was usually the one where Nicole is down there on bended knee, getting up there, taking all the photos and all that. And for me, it's a real surreal experience, and it shows me, you know, how far I've come in life now that I'm the one talking on the microphone. And yeah, and someone's taking photos of me, and I'm usually, I hate photos taken of me as well. So we'll move on to the next picture as well. Okay, influences. I've managed to capture 3 of my biggest influences in one place at one time, which I don't think you could say about many things in life. On the left here, we've got the lovely Martha Cooper. Where'd you go, Nicole? Disappeared on me. On the right here, Martha Cooper, Subway Art, back in 1982. I was 10 years old. I remember it. I remember the day came out as well. I think I actually got a copy off Peril. And that copy would have come from New York or something, that he would have got off some breakdancer or something like that. And this thing was so worn out and so dog-eared, you know what I mean? But it changed my life. This person here changed my life forever. You know what I mean? And the fact that I got to meet her and, you know, converse with her and photograph her, really did show me that I'm obviously in the right place at the right time, you know what I mean? Guy in the middle, I'm sure all you guys know who he is. Mr. Sunshine, Mr. Dean Sunshine. Where are you, by the way, Dean? I don't see you back there. Wedding anniversary. That's right, he's away for the weekend. Okay, so yeah, Dino, as you can see, he's got a camera around his neck. And he used to have a pretty average camera, but I think because I was upping my game, I think he went out and got himself a camera. No, I like that. But seriously, I've noticed a few people in the scene have all upped their game. They've all got nice cameras now, and I like that. And in some small way, very small way, I like to feel that I'm sort of a small part of that as well. And I love that. You know what I mean? And on the right here, we've got Mr. Henry Chalfont. There we go. He did a book called Wild Style. That was out in 1984 or 83, I think it was. And that book changed my life as well, you know what I mean? South Yarra, where I grew up, with Mum and my 2 brothers before I went to foster care. It was all about, in the commission flats behind Chapel Street there. And it was all about throwers and tags and graffiti, because I think graffiti came over in about 1979 around there. And I am a child of the 70s, as you can tell by my great chin here as well. So yeah, it's I love the urban exploration. I loved everything about it as well. So yeah, to have these 3 together, really... it was quite an amazing photo as well, you know. It was a bit out of focus. I was sort of... Mysterious Al. He's a very mysterious guy, that there, yeah. I remember trying to walk backwards. I think I almost tripped over, actually. I nearly fell over backwards as well. So, okay, where are we? I should have my glasses on. All right, I'll go with the next photo, eh? Another one of my... Anybody besides the guy saying yes, who knows who this is? Does anyone know who this is? He's an absolute legend, this guy. Once again, someone I looked up to as a child, before Facebook, before Instagram, before Twitter, before the interwebs, before any of that. So I got to do a collaboration here. This was through Invert, by the way. Invert's, mate, it's an amazing key. It's like a skeleton key to the artistic world. It's enabled me to meet so many creatives, collaborate, which is the key word for today, with so many people. And for that, I'm blessed. You know, I've collaborated with Jack here, with Fletcher, with Loretta, with Luke. I've collaborated with many people here that I know as well. And I would not be where I am without collaboration. That I know for a fact as well. Here I collaborated with not only Hennessy, but the great Futura, or Lenny is his name. This guy is an absolute god of the graffiti scene as well. And I remember asking him when he came to Melbourne as well. I said, "What is it about Melbourne you love?" And he goes, "Man, I've been everywhere. I've been in New York because I live there. I've been to Paris, London. Man, Melbourne is done. Ain't nothing like this. This place is absolutely done. Nothing like it. You know what I mean?" And for him to say that, man, I felt so much respect as well. And we ended up. It was a half an hour interview that we did with him. And I think Acclaim was there before us, and they just had their usual, you know, stuff that obviously reading over, you know, same questions everybody else asked. And I'm like, well, let's try something different. So what we did is we just put the iPhone on and sat down and talked to him for half an hour. I swear I almost got a tear in his eye too when he started talking about his daughter and his family and his kids. And he told us shit that you would not read in a Acclaim magazine, because we tried non-conventional methods. We tried to do something different. I wanted to talk to him. I think the first thing I asked him was, when I heard the words Tucky 183 come out of his mouth, for me, that was like, woo, because Taki 183, I knew a lot about as a child. He's apparently one of the original, one of the original taggers. Yeah, but anyway, to hear all these stories come out of his mouth was really quite amazing as well, you know what I mean? How are we doing for time back there, guys? Nice. Collaboration, okay, cool. I didn't know I was talking that quick, eh? Collaboration, okay, so here's one of the first projects I would have done through Invert. Okay, and that was basically working with councils, working with people, working with artists, working with property developers, working with owners. And this is what I love doing, and this is one of the things I really love doing today, and that's taking stuff like this and working on it and doing stuff like this to it. And what it does to people's days, it just changes their whole day. They don't know why, it just does. And that's why I love doing projects like this. That's why I really feel, I'm really glad that I found my place in the world. There's that guy over there. You know, there he is, Fletcher. He's back today. He's been overseas for like 3 years. This guy, he's had more. Okay, where we go? Next one. Okay, whoop, back there. Whoop, there we go. And this was a piece that Kath did as well. The reason why I love this one is it was Caffeine's first, it was the largest mural that she'd done as well. And to be able to facilitate that, it was really good as well. And I think the guy on the left there, we named it after Luke, because that was called Barney, because Barney used to get a bit Barney back in the day, so yeah. So, hey, this project was amazing. Apart from the fact that we broke every rule in the book, you know, the guys should have had harnesses up there. They all should have had tickets. Mate, we could have been drawn through the absolute proverbial court case on that one. Yeah. This is one of the most amazing projects I've done, and I'm so proud to have worked on this one. This was Paint Up 1, and this was addressing a beautiful wall and doing a piece that really, really means a lot to me as well, for not only for the art or for the artists that I work with, but culturally, significantly what it meant to me as well. Yeah, what I've been able to achieve here is I like the fact that I can capture things like that. And Matt's looking at that, he's looking back at me going, seriously, Dave, how long do you want me to press this button for? Because we needed some press shots, all right? Okay. I like this, that I've been able to capture the look in his face, and I like the fact that he looks like something from Star Wars as well, you know. And this was taken from quite a fair way away with a long lens as well, you know, a 70-200mm 2.8 L series lens. Clicker. And that was the finished result. That's right. This Smug actually said to me once, he said, David, after a month I was so glad because this thing was viral, global, absolutely all over the globe for a month or two, and it's all everyone saw on anyone's feeds. The young boy's name is Malu. Malu's from the Wurundjeri tribe. The Wurundjeri tribe is from the Burung Ma. So down in Hosey Lane, that is their land. We are but the boat people. We are borrowing their land for the moment in time as well. So that's why I really felt a real connection with this piece. I really wanted the Indigenous cultures of Australia to get something back, because I know these guys have had a really rough boat ride, you know what I mean? So it was really about giving something back to the community. And a lot of things that a lot of people don't know about this is that the ADNAID does so many amazing things for their cause as well, you know what I mean? It's not a white guy propagating off the Indigenous culture. It's actually somebody doing some really amazing things. So when I heard a few bad things going about it, I was really annoyed that people had some things to say about it, because, you know, a lot of the fees from this actually helped this very family here get to a very important funeral. And without this production that we did, they wouldn't have got there. You know what I mean? And when this family were trolling through Facebook one day and they seen this image on my Facebook page, man, you should have seen the pride, the outpouring of the happiness as well that came from this family. And I was so glad to be a part of it. This is a collaboration I did with the Ink and Clog from Singapore there as well. And this is through Invert as well, so we have a bit of an Australasian thing going on, a bit of an art exchange as well. So that was about bringing some artists over here as well, treating them like kings and queens, taking them on the streets of Melbourne and allowing them to paint wherever they wanted to paint, because in Singapore, you do not have the ease of access that you have here in Melbourne as well. Where are they? It's a really nice piece that was. Great little couple. They're like the Dabs and Maya of Malaysia as well. They are, Singapore, sorry, I always get that wrong, Malaysia, Singapore. I like this one because look at the guy's face, right? Look where his hand is. Look what the guy's looking at. Look what she's grieving at. And what's that hand up there? I don't know what that is, eh? I just like it because, sometimes when you're going through crowd shots, you come up with these shots like, what the hell is that, eh? Hey, there you go. This is one of my favourite shots. I've actually entered this photo in for this One Shot Award this year. So, wish me luck in that one. It's all about, this was the Northlands paint up with Smug, Adnate and Soffles. I know Adnate very well, but I hadn't met younger Soffles there and Smug. Mate, these guys are awesome. These guys are amazing, you know what I mean? And one thing I really walked away from this project with was I remember Smug came out to me. He said to me, David, we get a lot of people taking photos, but you've achieved, you've managed to achieve something that not many people achieve, and that's taking photos of people rather than taking photos of the art. It's really stepping back from the whole thing and looking at the whole thing itself, you know what I mean? And I know that I would not be where I am today, like I said, and I will keep saying this, without collaboration. And this is another collaboration I did. Was one of I did a show. I had a gallery. I ran a gallery for about 3 shows over there in with Conrad. And Conrad was one of my first guys I had over there. And this is also some projects that we do over in Melbourne on Council over there in Footscray as well. So Melbourne on Council, they had a whole bunch of money. They threw all these artists last year, and they gave them some pretty substandard work. But once we introduced the guys to Conrad and Hisco and Duke Styles, mate, they were just absolutely blown away by what these guys gave them on the streets of Footscray as well. And this is Footscray. This place deserves art like this. This art changes. It changes. It starts a revolution from the inside out as well, I believe. I really believe that as well. And this is Dem 189. Talk about collaboration. So I was just here taking photos, and then he just mentioned to me, how about we collaborate on a video? He made a video with some DMV guys in France in a car park setting. It's an amazing video, and I was more than honoured the fact that he'd asked me to work on the next project with him as well. And I know that wouldn't have come from if I hadn't collaborated and done all these other projects. Also, this here is a collaboration. So, you know, I do a lot of gallery shows. I do a lot of events as well. And once again, I try and present it in a different light as well. I try and showcase the beautiful piece there by Deems on the ceiling, the awesome piece there by Smug and Sean Lou and Ears and Jaws, and the list goes on and on and on, you know what I mean? And because I know these guys, I feel a real duty to present their work to the best of my ability, if not better. And sometimes make their work look better than what it is. And sometimes Adnaid comes up and goes, David, can you take the photos later? Because if you do, mate, no one's going to come to my show, mate. Seriously, they're going to see all your work up on there. Just give it a couple of days, will you? So yeah, no, I give it a couple of days now as well. So how are we going for time there? I love the way this guy is just interacting with Sam's piece. He's just absolutely drawn into it. He's just lost in there. He is, you know what I mean? I love what art does, and I believe that this street art scene is as, if not more, revolutionary in Melbourne specifically than any other expressionism, cubism, Fauvism, the Renaissance movement as well, due to the fact that you can really communicate with street art as well. It really doesn't alienate you as well. Fuck, you're good. I like that. You know what I mean? Hey. See, now what I've managed to do here, I know that you're never going to go there, and you're never going to look at that, and you're never going to get on the ground, and you're never going to go down like this and go, wow, that's amazing, look at that. You know, I know you're not, and I don't use it because I'm pretty precious about my clothes, you know what I mean? But I just like to be able to convey, and I like to show you something and take you somewhere that you otherwise wouldn't go. Because I know that a lot of time I get people finish work, they go home, they log onto their computer, and a lot of the first things they do is they go check out my photos, and it makes their day. For some people, they wouldn't have any idea what goes on in this scene if it wasn't for my photos. So I feel a real duty to be able to, you know, to highlight and, you know, I love to show the urban interaction of the way the art changes this building. It's a building you would never even look at. You'd never give that building the time of day, you know what I mean? But until you address it with some beautiful art like that and present it in a beautiful manner and fashion as well, and it's almost it's a collaboration as well. It's a sort of a silent collaboration. You know, I'm very aware that I may know a few of those guys. I think it's Bolts and Sauce and all those guys there. A bit of Nost on the left-hand side there. Man, that guy is everywhere right now. Okay, I've got a bit of Gus there. I think someone's done this photo before, but I thought I'd try my own version anyway. You know, it's a nice Gus piece there as well. You know, there's a few nice bits of colours there. And it's always about doing something different. It's always about trying to be very, very different as well. What have we got here anymore? There's that guy. That's that guy right there, Luke. Yeah, this is one of the bandos that we go to. I love going to bandos, you know what I mean? Bandos are really good. Okay, and also I like capturing a bandos because these things are fast slipping into the time, the histories as well, you know what I mean? A lot of these, I think except for this part here, which is all heritage, this is down at Brad Mills for any of those you know. It's a really nice place, Blah. Yeah, it's just Blah, that's all it is. I like this because you've just taken a boring house and you put a bit of colour on there. And it's what it's done to the landscape as well. I think the landscape has forever changed with street art as well. And I love what graffiti has done as well. And remember that, guys, graffiti is graffiti and street art is street art. Neither two are the same. Street art did get its influences from graffiti, just to let you know that, okay? Okay, and don't stop. How am I going for time, by the way? Am I almost there? Woo! Don't stop. This is what I took this photo about 2 years ago. Basically, it's don't stop. Don't stop. There's plenty of time to rest when we're dead, fellas. You know what I mean? Get in there. Do it. You know, if you want it, go get it. You can get it. Because believe me, if I can get it, And man, I've got the worst school record of all of you, believe me, you know what I mean? I've had a pretty shitty life, but I'm grateful that I had that. Because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have this. So I love that, and I love this, and I love you. Thank you very much.
So I have had the absolute pleasure of knowing Jack Douglas for several years. I've watched him turn from a talented illustrator into a street artist before finding his voice as tattooing. He's had a natural way of transforming work into something fun that anyone can enjoy while still remaining professional. I'm getting louder and this is starting to squeal. He's the kind of artist that everyone wants to work with and constantly goes from strength to strength, collaborating with fellow artists through to his tattooing clients. Please put your hands together and welcome Jack Douglas.
Skip. There we go. Very few people have seen this, by the way. I haven't really actually shown this to anyone, so.
An anxious few hours this morning for a Heathmont mother when her 2-year-old son went missing. The little boy let himself out of the family home and wandered down to the local milk bar. The shopkeeper called police, who took the errant toddler back to the police station. And it was there a frantic mother was finally reunited with her adventurous son.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is street cred. Okay. Hi, my name is Jack, and I love to draw. It all started from there, really. That was probably one of the first recorded instances of me actually creating. Yeah, we've had that VHS tape for a long time. Okay, so occasionally I get to draw with other people, which is a lot of fun. I love to do it. I'm always looking to do it. If anyone wants to, I'm down. This really says everything. I mean, I've been painting and exhibiting for quite a few years now. I've been tattooing for 2.5, but I would never consider myself a master. There are always people out there to learn from, work with, just experience new things. There is no master, basically. All right, so here is a very poorly shot video of my process of drawing. I apologise for the video, it is terrible.
Yeah.
I will be working with videographers in the future. Okay. Now moving on to illustration work. This was a reference image that was given to me by a client. His name is Phoenix. He is American. He rides motorcycles and he practices martial arts. He is amazing. It was pretty easy to develop that character because it looked like it was done in Microsoft Paint in the 90s, so it was easy to make something look better. Phoenix was a real character, and I wanted to try and capture that in his branding. I'm by no means a graphic designer. I've had no training whatsoever, so I do not have those sensibilities. I only work really as an illustrator. Always looking to learn, and I've had a lot of people that have helped me over the years get to where I am with vector art and that sort of stuff. So we looked at some branding options for him. From this point, there are a lot of emails going back and forth because he really didn't want to know. He really didn't know what he wanted as far as layout was concerned. The brief was, the brief was basically that he wanted a patch for his biker jacket and for his chef's uniform. So he was a pretty strange guy, all in all. But this is what we came up with in the end. The option on the right was the one that he went with. Because he was a pastry chef, which has absolutely nothing to do with the imagery that we used. I put a bit of a pie cutter sort of thing in the background, and he loved that, so that was the only thing that sort of linked to what he actually did. But it was still fun nonetheless, and I got paid, so I love that. This was a very, very rushed job. It was an overnight thing. This was an existing sort of dance event that had been run, and a young guy by the name of 11 had been doing all the design work up until then. And at that point, he'd become really busy, and so they were looking for new people. I got hit up by the guy who ran it. He said, I want a poster. I made a poster. He didn't like the poster. So we went with a breakdancing character instead. At the time, there'd been a lot of stink over the shark culls, and so I wanted to do something with sharks because they're just awesome for one. It's I just love painting them and drawing them. They're really good fun. That was what I came up with. That was what he did with it. I'd just like to say I wasn't really fussed with what he did as far as the design went. I was happy with the character. That was it. My job was done. I'd sort of done the bare minimum as far as design went. It was a rush job, but I do like to stress the point that keeping creative control over your work is very important, whether it be working with a corporate client or whether it be a private commission. I think that you want to make certain that people don't turn your work into something that you don't want them to see, and keeping your integrity in check. It's really important. All right, moving on to walls. This was one of my really early pieces. It was painted with a young man by the name of Eyesore. That was one of several words that he used over the years because he continued to get caught. He wasn't very smart, and he often did things naked, so that was always good fun. But I did love painting with him because he didn't, anything went with him. It didn't matter what you wanted to do, he was up for it. So that was always good fun, and that's what I love about painting. It's you can take something that's very serious and make it fun. And I think that's important that you do that when you create things. This was a collaboration with an artist named Bean. This is one of my early collaborations again. Bean was a guy from New Zealand, but this was a piece that we painted in Berlin. I got called down to paint this bar out called Fragments of Urban Culture. They like to call it Fuck Bar. So that's that. But yeah, I was actually scared to work on my own. So I'd met him on a street art tour when I'd first arrived, and I called him down and we painted together, and it was great. I mean, his style is a little bit more simpler than what I sort of run with, but we made it work, and I think that's really important that you find a way to complement each other as well in collaboration. This is an example of something that isn't a collaboration. We painted together, and we have painted together many times. Ryan Bizzario is an amazing artist, and he is a fucking awesome guy. But sometimes you're not feeling it, and you should never force a collaboration. So we just kind of painted next to each other. Now, on to working with WSW. Now, this was a crew that Fletcher Anderson, again, he's getting shout-outs, cheeky fucker. He put together this crew based off an idea that we wanted to paint on weekends and have fun, basically. That was the core of it. And it became something for a little while, and then everyone kind of went off and did their own thing. But while it was going, it was really great. I think that this was probably our strongest piece that we did together. As far as everything goes, Conrad's work with the type up top was fantastic. The selective colour palette was really good, and I think that, yeah, everyone sort of kept to the St Kilda theme quite nicely. But it will never compare to the Everfresh Fitzroy wall because, let's say it is the best wall in Australia, easily. This was an example of a more ramshackle production that we did, Fletch. It was basically a rock up and paint a piece sort of situation. There were drinks, there were DJs. It was a really fun day, but ultimately it did look a bit mishmashy. And some people didn't even follow the cat theme. I mean, like, CKM, he's an amazing painter, but that is not a cat, that is a person. So, I do really like that guy. This is not a diss. He's fucking awesome. Okay. So this one comes up again. Dave showed a bit of a snapshot of the laneway in progress, but I think finding even small elements of your work to tie in with what other people are doing next to you makes it more dynamic and a little bit fun, even if putting candy into your friend's mouth is creepy, just because I wouldn't do that in real life, I promise. Beer plus paint equals dicks. That's not a collaboration either, but I found it and thought it was funny, so there you go. All right, this was done with 11. He had an off day, I had an off day, and he found a wall out his way. It happened to be National Burger Day at the time. If no one's familiar with 11, I highly suggest checking out his work because he, aside from loving burgers, he is one of the most prolific illustrators I've ever come across, and he is super humble and yeah, got a bit of a man crush on him, I must say. But yeah, this was a really fun piece. We worked together on the palette, everything. It ties together nicely, aside from the fact that down the bottom it doesn't look finished, but there were bins there, so they were never going to get seen no matter what we painted. But yeah, there's a sneaky photo of Fletch. This was just a laneway that Fletch got legal a long time ago. We still have that legal, I believe, so we will be collaborating on that in the future, maybe even next weekend. Yes. All right. Working with writers has always been a challenge for character artists, I think, because they are purists at heart. They love letters and they love the structure and they also love their own space. So the original train painters, they started working with character guys or doing their own characters, but they were quite often sidelined, or they'd bookend each other's work. But eventually they started changing up a bit and making their characters interact with the pieces a bit more. And now we've got crews like AWOL out now that are just making these ridiculous productions that it doesn't even look like it's a group of people. It just looks like a single artist has done it because they work so strongly together. And I think that's something that everyone should really strive for. I went up to Byron Bay recently for a wedding. I've been following Berg, who's a bit of a street artist that gets around. He's moving back to Melbourne soon, so look out, everyone. I was a fan of his work for a long time, just strictly from his paste ups, and then he started using spray cans. I hit him up online. We met a couple of days later and painted a piece, and it was great. I think that for someone to be up for that and so immediately without knowing someone, that's really great. And I think it's important that people sort of remain open when it comes to collaboration. All right, here's just a few sort of snapshots. On the left is a piece I did with Mike Watt. It was a wall that Sprinkles had organised, but I took terrible shots, so that's all you get. This was one with Hisco in the centre, and there are a bunch of dudes on that one. And then another production that painted with Pierre a few months ago. He's more of a comic book artist, but to get him out and use spray cans is always good fun. These ones are a little bit different from normal collaborations. I decided to really piss Mysterious Al off and bust my way into his characters and infect them with my style, basically. Luckily, he was pretty open to it, and yeah, we did these sort of fun sort of mashy Franks, we started calling him, because normally he nicknames them bashy Franks because he bashes them out in like 30 minutes. He's a bit of a freak. Working with scale is probably one of the biggest things I look forward to when it comes to collaboration, because scale he will always push himself to make each piece better than the last. He's very detail orientated, and he's up for pretty much any idea. This was a ode to Jim Phillips, the Screaming Hand design, very classic Santa Cruz piece. And he's always up for fun stuff as well. So that was literally just a Sunday paint session. He'd seen these photos of capsicums with googly eyes on them, and so we just painted that, and that was great. This is an example of when I've let someone else carry the production and not actually put enough effort in myself. Here, Scale did about 90% of the background. He did pretty much everything that makes it a trapdoor themed piece. So I think it's important to not get caught up in what you're doing and work on the piece as a whole as well. That's definitely something to look into. I mean, it's an area that I'm constantly trying to improve on because I get really stuck into details and yeah, I'm just a shit person basically. All right, now moving on to tattooing. I've been doing this for 2.5 years and I'm still learning every day. It's something that is constantly challenging me and I find it very rewarding, even down to from working on things like the smaller tattoos that people pick up on Pinterest and copy, like the Rihanna tattoo on the side of the finger. It means something to the client, so it means something to me. I think it's really important that even if it's not something you'd normally do, even if you have to dial back your own personal style, that you still do what you can to make the piece the best you've done. You know, it's because it's on them for life, basically. And I'm paraphrasing from Shige, an artist based in Japan here. He basically said that fine art is something that is exhibited in museums and sold to a private collector, whereas tattooing is always one-on-one. Once you put a piece of art on someone, they have it until they die, and then it's gone. It's very ephemeral in the sense of time and space, all that stuff. So this is one of my favourite clients. His name's Kyle, and his dog's name is Meg. Meg looks like an Ewok, so he wanted a tattoo of his dog on him. It turns out he wasn't a huge fan of Star Wars, so unfortunately we couldn't go with that. So instead I found out he was a fan of Kevin Smith films. So I turned his dog into the Buddy Christ. We've still yet to finish this piece, but it has been very fun working on him. All right, so this is an example of where, in part at least, with the forearm piece on the left, I've had to sort of dial back what I do as far as street work and my personal stuff goes. I've had to do something a bit more closer to what's considered traditional or neo-traditional tattooing. And then as it's sort of gone on with the work, as you can see, the work on the right, it is actually a full sleeve. So moving up from the elbow, he's sort of let me out of the cage a little bit and let me do something a bit more cartoony on him. So finding someone that will trust you to put your own personal touch on something is really, it's quite a beautiful thing. And I think it should never be taken for granted. I think I hear a lot of tattooists speak. I always research. I'm never not looking at what other people are doing. And I think some people, they tend to get really caught up in their own personal affairs and they forget that they're working on a human being. I hate hearing the term, their body is my canvas, because it's not true. They're not. They're a human being, and it's a gift that you're being given to be paid to cause them such severe amounts of pain and give them a piece of art that they'll wear constantly. Now, this is probably one of my most ambitious projects to date. I've done a few sleeves now, but this is the one that this puts full back pieces that I've worked on into, it puts it to shame basically, because my client is a gamer. Gamers are the most meticulous creatures you'll ever come across. There are no details that were not looked over. This thing went through a microscope. So these are just a few sketches that we went to just for the forearm piece that we began with, and then when he decided he wanted more, we went full sleeve in the end. But this is just a brief snapshot of the process which we went through to get the design where he wanted it. So even minor changes, like switching the angle up a bit so it was a bit more believable what was happening, down to the actual tattoo itself. Now, as we moved on, I realized that I had my work cut out for me with this guy. He was going to really run me through the paces on everything. So I took each single character and treated it as a solo asset, and then right at the end brought it all together in one outline. So we went through a few iterations until we got everything to the sort of level where it was polished enough that he was happy. Because even if I was happy, he would find something, which I actually do cherish. It doesn't piss me off at all. I would rather back and forth with people until it's good, So building characters from scratch, I hate this character. Nintendo should not have created this thing. It has a butthole for a face. There weren't very many good reference images, so I had to figure out what she looked like all over again. She looks like a piece of shit. So that was the final outline. Now, when I laid on the stencil, some things didn't lay quite right, so we had to shift it around a bit, and it was more of a cut and paste sort of situation. But this is probably one of the more recent process shots. Since then, I've done a bit more on his upper arm now. But this is a little video of, if I can get it, there we go, of what it looks like in 3D. All right, so this is a tricky one. Often I'll get approached by people that come with references, which I love getting because it gives me a jumping off point, at least. Now, it's tricky because quite often people will come to me with another tattooist's work and they want more of the same, basically. But being a custom studio, we have to basically give people something that's different, something that's more individual to them. Now, this was some reference that was given to me by my client, Melisha. I'd already done a ship tattoo on her left thigh, and she wanted a matching wolf piece for her right. So she sent me this reference. There are a few different sort of styles already in what she sent me, and so I tried to keep it in line with the style that she already had on her other leg to keep it matching and make it cohesive, as well as being, keeping in line with the sort of imagery that she was after. So this is what we came up with in the end. You can kind of see in the left photo there that I kept the background colors the same. There's a red in the background behind the ship as well, so it's the same sort of matching reds that I used in the anatomical heart. And I think that probably worked out really well. She's a great client, and I've really enjoyed working with her. This one was another tricky one because Kyan Din, also known as Tattoo Parlor Prince, she's not a tattooist, but she's very known amongst the tattooing community. She has a huge following. Her paintings are really beautiful. And I was basically approached with that exact image and asked to turn it into a police officer. And so I took it and changed the hair, changed the eyes, changed the shirt. Pretty much changed everything bar the pose and came up with a thigh piece for this guy. I think sometimes when you stray too far from something, people will come back to you and say that they don't like it. That's when you have to start compromising. But that's okay. As long as it's different enough that it makes it yours and it makes it theirs as well, because you don't want to just have a copy. If everyone's got it, then why bother, This was another one that I was given, and it was a drawing from a Balinese tattooist that was given to my client, and he wanted to get that exact image tattooed. He wanted it on his calf, and so looking at the drawing, it's not long enough, and it's not really it would probably have wrapped too much around him. And so I just took it, I used a real life skull reference, and just sort of changed it up and made it flow a bit better so that it fitted his leg. And so that was the final image that we had done. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble.
Okay, so our next speaker is Kifka Kingan. So if you don't necessarily want to be an artist in this industry, Kifka is the kind of person you aspire to be. She has worked and is currently working with some of our generation's leading artists, and she's curated shows for the likes of Metro Gallery to Juddy Roller. She is constantly behind the scenes making life easier for the awe-inspiring artists we respect and admire. She's one of our unsung heroes, and personally, I find her to be a true collaborator. So please sit back, relax, and warmly welcome Kifka Kingan.
So when Toby asked me to do a talk for Redbubble, I was like, great, I love talking. I hope everyone's familiar with that really great talk by Ira Glass on taste. Has anyone seen it? In a nutshell, he sort of goes on to explain that everyone that gets into creative work, you do it because you have really good taste. But for the first little while, you sort of go through and you do this work and you sort of realize that the work that you're doing, it's just not that good. And this process can sort of take years, and because you have this really good taste, that's the kinship, is that you know what you're doing and that it's just really not that good. And that's the time that most people quit. And his advice to when you're beginning is don't quit. You have good taste, don't quit. And I think that that's really good advice. But I'd go a step further and go right back to the start, and I'd say, you need a step sooner than that. And one of my most influential and memorable university lecturers, she did this wonderful thing, the first class we had, and she made us all write down, I am a writer, which isn't that weird because I was studying English at the time, so not completely out of left field. And I'd advise everyone in this room to sort of think around the same sort of ethic. Think about yourselves as creative, even if you're not an artist, even if you don't even know exactly what you want to be. If you're here, if you're showing up, it's because you're creative. So if you back yourself, you become the biggest asset that you have. And you know that saying, start how you mean to go on. That's what I did. And I started with this idea that, okay, I'm creative. I'm a writer. Okay. And a few years ago, when I'd first moved to Melbourne, I went to an art opening. And I got there and was like, wow, this is amazing. I'd been to lots of other openings in Melbourne before, but I got to this one and I just thought, what a great space. And I was blown away by it. And I just thought, who runs this place? Like, who does this? I have to know. And I went over and I found a business card and it said director on it. And I just started asking people, who's this guy? Can you point him out to me? And I ended up talking to the artist, who I'm sure thought I was a total idiot. But he was like, oh yeah, he's that guy over there. And then I talked to him for a little bit more and I was like, this is a great show. This is really incredible. This is so good. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And the director opened the show and I went up to him and I talked to him and I said, this is amazing. What you've done here is really, really great. And he said, oh, thanks. Who are you? And I said, hi, I'm Kifka. I'm a writer and I just moved here. And I studied art history. And he was like, oh, that's great. We should talk about that sometime. And I was like, that's great. How about tomorrow? And that's how I got my first job. And that gallery was Metro Gallery. That artist was Anthony Lister. And I worked there for years. And it was amazing and incredible, and every day I was like, wow, this is my job. I get to tell people they're amazing for a living. This is great. The other thing is, I put myself forward for that, and that's what you have to do. Everyone said the same sorts of things here, is that if you're collaborating with people, you have to ask, you have to be there, you have to show up, you have to do it. And, you know, now's probably a really good time to point out that I'm a woman. Thanks for noticing. And if any of you have worked in any sort of industry which is really competitive and it's really hard to get into, you'll notice that at the top, there's not that many women. And that I work with a lot of men who are amazing and they're incredible. And I work with some women too. But a lot of the feedback I get is, oh, you know, that's really great. You've got a really good job. You're so lucky. And for years, I have been like, I am so lucky. And I've agreed with them, and I've gone, yeah, you're right, I'm so lucky. I get to tell people what they do is amazing for a living. I'm so lucky. And this went on, and I watched a few things like Sheryl Sandberg's TED Talk, and I read her book, Lean In, and I was more and more around all of these people that work really, really hard at what they do. Some of them are here today, and I've watched them get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and install shows and be there till 3 a.m. at night. And I've been there too with them. And every time somebody comes up to me and goes, wow, you know, you really love what you do, you're so lucky. Now I think it's really important that I say, thanks, I work really hard and I love what I do, rather than just agreeing. And a huge approach of what I do as well, you know, it's a little bit more than telling people what they do is amazing. It's coming from things with a collaborative strategy in mind and sort of asking questions of, what is it that you do? What do you like to do? What would you like to do better? How could you do that better? What do you need help with? How can you get that help? Who can give you that help? When do you need it by? And then I make a plan. And then I quite often say to somebody that I work with, after we've made this plan and I've asked all these questions that are hard, and they are the behind the scenes stuff, and they're not the stuff that, you know, when you're picking up a pen and going, this is so fun, they're not the stuff you're initially thinking about. And I say, okay, let's do one thing. And it all starts from there, and it all goes from there, and that's how you begin. I work better with people, that's how I work. And it's true. Part of what I do and part of collaboration, a really crucial part of that, is that it forces you to do things that you wouldn't think of yourself, and it's a challenge. You have to find skills and opportunity that other people can bring to the party. You know, spelling, Kifka, painting faces, Roan. You know, you look at everyone's skill sets and you go, what can I bring here? What can I offer? How do I add value to what I'm doing? And part of my work now is I'm studio managing a space called Everfresh Studios, which is an incredible opportunity, and it's so fun, and I'm so glad that I get to work there. But putting it together is this epic and wonderful conglomeration of a variety of different skill sets. And the reason that those guys work together really, really well is because they know what they're bringing in. They know really firmly who they are and what they have to offer. And when it all comes together like that, the ideas come and they come to fruition. So if you be really clear on what you know and you don't get stuck in one spot and you're willing to change and offer things and be flexible with a project, it makes everything happen so much faster. You know, every really good work and really good, strong piece has come from somebody being a little bit willing to change, and you let go of it being a personal project so much, and you kind of go, this is a collaboration, this is all of us. And, you know, it might not be you, but because it's everyone, it's better, and it makes you look so much better. So work with the people that you think are the best, because God, they make you look so good. I have some photos of the space that I work in now. Basically, more than 6 months ago, we took on this building. It's in Collingwood. Just keep flicking if somebody is doing this for me. This is what it was like when we first got it. I was here this day, and we got it from other people, so it just looked like this. And you just kind of have to realize that, you know, even though a lot of my job is on the computer and answering emails, a lot of it was sweeping and moving stuff around and arranging forklifts and things like that. But it kept going and it kept going and it didn't stop. And it's such a beautiful space, and everyone's so inspired by everything that when we finally had an open day and everyone has their spaces to work in, and it's all come together so well, you just go, wow, we really did this. We did this off this building that like had holes in the floor and like was falling apart. And that's the space that now people get to create in. This is some of the artists that I work with. And just every day you kind of show up and you just go, wow, this is really amazing. And we're so lucky to live in Melbourne and have so many of these spaces around. It makes it really incredible, and it makes the fact that collaboration and being creative in Melbourne is really possible, because all of these people are willing to work with other people if you just ask. And if you just keep your hand up and you just go, yeah, I want to do this. And that's really the big thing to kind of take away from it, is just work smarter. You don't have to work that much harder, you just have to work with other people and let go of it. Don't try and do everything yourself, because it's so much better to work with other people. Like, you become so happy doing that. And I'm a firm believer that everybody has said something better than you could ever say it. So, you know, in the wonderful words of Mick Fleetwood, the downside these days is thinking, I can do this all on my own. And yes, you can do this all on your own, but you'll be a much happier human being if you do it with other human beings. And that's it.
So we finally have our fourth speaker. I originally met Loretta Lizzio in Brisbane nearly 2 years ago, and within the first 5 minutes, she blew my socks off. She's not only humble and genuine, but she's a typical creative and can't just do one thing. She is an illustrator who creates beautiful line work, but also a photographer and advocate for Element Eden, collaborating with clients, brands, artists, and models constantly. She's been living in Melbourne for the last year, and someone to constantly keep you watching, as you never know what she's going to do next. Please welcome Loretta Lizzio.
Hi guys. Please excuse me reading from here, as I'm not the best public speaker and I'm very nervous. Okay. As Toby just mentioned, my name is Loretta Lizzio, and I'm speaking on the importance of collaboration. Creating collaboration art isn't for anyone. I'd probably say most artists find it difficult to invite others into their process. I know I did to begin with. After all, art is a very private and personal affair for the majority of artists I know and have encountered. But I do think it is very important to get out of this headspace. With everything, you want to be constantly learning, growing and evolving, pushing your boundaries and forcing yourself out of your comfort zone. When doing this, personally, especially with my art, I know I thrive. I become at times overwhelmed with ideas after planning and discussing works or endeavours with friends. The results of collaboration between a couple or more creative people is usually nothing short of amazing. Though collaboration isn't always between two artists of any sort, you are also doing this when dealing with clients. Almost every piece I create these days is in some way a collaboration. This one, for example, a recent commission work. I've basically had this person come to me and say they want a female centaur with a candy skull, nude, decorative, gave me the measurements of how big they want it and just said, okay, go for it. I find pieces like this quite fun because you get to take something from someone's mind and create something even better than what they had imagined. I also take something away from every commission piece I do because it's not something I would usually work on. This one, for example, I learn about watercolour and the best paper, because I don't usually work in watercolour, and the best paper to use for it and just how it works and bleeds and whatnot. But I also learnt that it sucks for pencil and oil paint. This next one, person came to me wanting their pet dogs drawn, which I was like, no fucking way am I drawing someone's pets. I'm not going to that level. I thought it was so lame. But I was booking an overseas holiday and I thought, what the hell, I'll accept this one. And after photographing and figuring out a cool way to draw these, I really loved it. It was fun, easygoing, gave me a bunch of new ideas for other pieces, and I ended up taking on a few more jobs just like it. Also, I think I'd rather be sitting at home in my PJs with a bowl of cereal, watching a movie and drawing this than at, behind a desk somewhere doing something, counting down the hours till the end of the day. Yeah. Oh, this one's done with watercolour and pencil. Sorry, I should be saying that. And the last one... Sorry? Oh, yes. The last one was oil paint, watercolour and pencil. I really like mixing things together. Okay, so then you go from jobs like these to ones like these. I have a couple of examples of the kind of briefs I get. There's ones like this. Put together really well to cover all areas and give me an exact feel of what they want. And then I get ones like this. And it's ones like these that you have to keep you cool and usually communicate verbally with the client rather than via email. And this one ended up not so bad. It was a wine label in the end. However, with both of these examples, this is not just the starting point. We communicate back and forth, working as a team until we come up with a winning design. There's also ones like these that I do quite often for Element, Eden. So again, they come to me with a brief and it'll say like they want animals and they want them dreamy, symmetrical, with some pattern work and whatnot, and I come up with an idea and we work back and forth again until there's something that they're happy with, and it's a pretty fun little collaboration. But I'd have to say, above all, my favourite kind of collaborations are photo shoots. For starters, who doesn't love shooting a babe? But it's not just because of that. It's the one time that I'm working with a team of people. We're on site, everybody knows and plays their part, and there's such a buzz in the air. There's the model, the hair and makeup artist, the stylist, and the company you're shooting for. It's just heaps of fun. Yes, so in order for collaboration to work, first thing, you need to leave your ego at the door. It takes a certain level of artistic maturity to take direction and ideas regarding something you are about to create. You need to be open and understanding of others, what they need and why. Mutual respect, mutual effort. Creative conflict is a reality of collaborative art. Without mutual respect and trust, the project will be doomed from the start. Personally, I am big on following my gut instinct. It never lets me down. Art requires so much emotion in order to produce these amazing pieces of work, which is why I think you need to follow your gut when faced with the opportunity of collaboration. It's not something you want to get into if you've got that terrible feeling to begin with. And if you have that mutual respect with each other and you trust in each other's abilities, then you're probably onto something pretty good. Mutual effort, mutual work. This pretty much speaks for itself. If you're going in on something with others, do your job, work hard, and don't ruin it for everyone else. And of course, you have every right to expect the same in return. Without being righteous, of course, I think it's important to keep your integrity. Mutual work, mutual exposure. I don't know about you guys, but most of the work I receive these days is the result of social media. When you are working on something with one or more people, they of course are going to be streaming this through their outlets also, which means more exposure for you and your work, which in turn leads to more work. Collaborating with others is a skill you enhance in time, and as you gain more experience, it becomes easier and more enjoyable. It is hard, or at least I think so. It took me a long time to change my thought process when it came to working with others in regards to art. I knew what I wanted to do, and there was no room for change unless I decided so. I knew, and there is definitely a place for that. It is important to have your own personal projects, though collaborating with others will only enhance and benefit you. Working with others increases your understanding of development. You involve diverse perspectives and in turn develop a higher level of thinking, which inevitably leads to higher results. So, I know everything I've just mentioned may sound very serious, but it's not. You need to remember to have fun along the way. Discovering your greatest passion is hard because you have to balance this desire with the need to feed and house yourself. I think this is what most creatives struggle with. This may mean working a few different jobs at the same time or whatever it is you do to get by, which would get the best of us down. But try to remember all good things take time. Enjoy the learning process because it is a never-ending road. Be yourself, stay true to your style and who you are. Oh no, wait, sorry. That's the next one. I don't know where I am. Handwritten notes. Oh, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, that gut feeling, if something feels really wrong, it usually is, or at least be open and discuss these feelings with the people involved. Stay focused and grounded, and try and trust that everything will be okay in the end, because usually is, and it's just a fun ride anyway, even if everything does turn to shit. I'll leave you today with a little video I recently collaborated on for Stance Socks. My friend Tom Antolini was behind the lens and was also responsible for the editing. And my other mate, Elroy 4.0, provided the track for it. Enjoy, and thank you so much for having me.
What am I supposed to do now? I find my way in the dark without you somehow. If only there was something to say, I help you get away, out of your mind, and keep you in line. And borrowed love can't help you, and no, I can't protect you. It feels like you're on your own this time. These trinkets will remind you, you smile and I will too. The thoughts keep stacking up. thoughts keep stacking up. At the time, I didn't mind, but now the thoughts keep stacking up.